Hey everybody, it's Alex Williamson. Trying this from the computer. I don't think this will be a good quality streaming format, but I set it up on my laptop and now it doesn't recognize it on my phone as even happening. So I just wanted to come on tonight because I saw a lot of the Fishfam is online tonight, which is great, and I wanted to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. Hold on, let me turn this baby around so the light works in my favor. That flattering position of staring down at the laptop. So tonight, I basically I'm here obviously to answer any questions folks have, but I wanted to show you guys some art. Some of it's going to be going to LRB's stuff. Some of it's going to be on my channel, and some of it may actually be coming to a certain somebody who's watching this episode right now. If you guys know who that might be, shrimp related name. So I have a couple tanks set up right now, and I thought that it would be fun to drink Dr. Pepper. No, I thought that it would be fun to maybe go through one of the mops of my Pseudomagil Aru2s and see if we have any presents. Also, I have a mop up here that hasn't been checked in a long while, but I have baby Julii living in there. Julii Corridoras, that is. So I wanted to give that a shot. Now, the other thing, bear with me for one sec, that I was curious about is what happens if I try to instigate a live stream at the same time as this one, if it'll let me switch over cameras. And I'm not sure if it will. La la la. Let's try it. We'll call it stream 2. Okay. Next. Smile for the picture. Okay. Go live. Let's see what happens, guys. All right, so it says that I'm live on both channels right now. What's happening to you guys? Does anybody, like, hi if anyone's in this channel yet, but I don't think it's going to. Let's try to break the space-time continuum. Live streaming a live stream that doesn't exist, possibly? Okay, well, I have no idea. So this allows both channels to be live at the same time. So if you can see my phone here, well, you can't really, but odd. So we'll stick with this laptop one for now. But I just wanted to figure out what in the heck is going on with YouTube right now, because I set up a live stream on the laptop hoping to use the phone. However, the phone now is having its own live stream, and there's people in this chat room. Hi, people in this chat room. So I'm going to close the phone one and stick with the original one that has the art and the right title and everything. So bye, guys. Okay, so I don't know what just happened. Very odd. So interesting. All right, guys. So I wanted to show you what I got going on here. We've got 2 tanks. I'm specifically breeding some Aru2s in this tank for some dear friends of mine. And if you can see, the Aru2s are hanging out. They usually hang out near the top. And then over here, this is where we hatched the baby, what were they? Danios and Rasboras. So that's kind of fun that's up and running. I think that it's a fun project over break. If you guys just have an extra 5-gallon to try breeding something, something easy, even if you want like some Danios or live bears, I think are a little too easy, but all you need to do is get yourself some yarn, wrap it around a book, make yourself a mop. If you don't know what a mop is, let's pull out a mop. And let's see if we can find some eggs live on YouTube. Now that I broke the space-time continuum. Okay. Ugh. And if anybody has questions, please ask away. Hello, Helcio, Dan, Ginger, Bob, Soggy Pits, Water Wizard, Naked Reaver. Oh, we got lots of good people in here tonight. So, all right. I'm going to pull a mop that has been sitting for 24 hours with one female pseudomcgill right here. And if this isn't interesting, we're going to X-nay on this quickly. See, my phone would have been great for this, but no, apparently that's not going to be possible. So this is a mop. This was made just by, I wrap yarn around a book, wrap it around like 100 times. That's what Gary Lang says. Anything less is not worth it. And so wrap it around 100 times, tie a knot in the top loop of the book, and then secure it so you can hang it on something, hang it on the edge of the tank, and then you just leave it in there. And if this is the only thing in the tank, if it's just a water bottom tank, then that will this will be what the fish hopefully almost always will stick their eggs to. Now, what's interesting? Yep. Okay, so we've got eggs right away, which is good. Let's see if we can get that to show up. Oh, we can. So that's a baby pseudomcgill waiting to come into our world, and so this is a pseudomcgill Gertrude Aru2, and their tank yet again over here. This is their tank. I know you see the sticker in it and everything, but those are the Aru2s. They're chilling in there. There's one female, 3 males, and I just set this tank up the other day. So what I do when I get the eggs is I just set them aside onto, usually I just get a piece of cardboard or whatever. It's not that important. The eggs are actually really hardy. Not all of them hatch. So when you have yarn like this, it imitates the wild, I guess, plants and things. But what's interesting to me is that I've put these mops up in this tank that is just super lush with plants, and the R2s always choose this over the plants. Or, I mean, I guess they could be using the plants too, and they just make so many eggs that I can't tell. But with one female and all those, so I want you guys to see something else. So here, if you can see that is an unfertilized egg. So when it's clear like that instead of amber like the last one, that means it will be unfertilized usually, or it was just fertilized, like, within the last 12 hours or less, like 6 hours. But they start to turn an amber color once the male finds it and fertilizes it. And usually the male will follow. With pseudomagills, specifically RU2s, I have the most experience. But basically they will follow the female, and the only thing that stops them from paying attention to the female is competing with each other to show off, which is funny. Like sometimes the female will be busy laying eggs. I've watched it happen a bunch of times, and the males are so busy puffing up and looking really cool, which is fun to watch, but they don't pay attention to where she put her eggs, and they can't find it, and then they're just left like hanging out with each other. So I'm gonna guess that in this tank the males are not as comfortable or something, because we've got more eggs here that are not fertilized. There's one up there, there's one right there. But for the size of the fish, these eggs are the biggest in the fish, I guess, kingdom. I don't know. Is that a kingdom? In the fish world, Gary Lang was mentioning that these eggs, for the size of these fish, would be like, if you compare them to the other fish, it's like a female human giving birth to, like, let me try to think of a scuba tank or something. Like, I feel so bad for these little fish, because the females can be like this long, and they'll lay like 4 or 5 eggs that size a day. They're bigger than their eyeballs and head. Like, it's kind of bizarre. And then the fry are really teeny, so kind of odd there. Did I miss anything? Yeah, you could totally water incubate the mop all at the same temperature in another tank. You're totally right. That's a totally viable way to do it. Yeah, so let me show you what I do next. Where did I put that stuff? I was getting it ready for, oh, here we go. So I take this, just filter floss, and I get a little bit of it. Don't need much. And I get a little bit of it, and I tease it apart a bit. And then I take the eggs, and I put them in it, just with my fingers. Now, you can use a paintbrush, like a little teeny artist paintbrush, and just, turn it slowly, and the hairs on the paintbrush will then pick up the eggs. And that works pretty well too if you're worried about smushing them, if you're not the most coordinated person in the world, or have a hard time seeing and you're using a magnifying glass and you want to just have your tools like right there. Somebody asked book ? About how to make these mops. Let me show you. I know I've just like climbed over you. So when I make a mop, I start with a big ball of yarn, right? I put that yarn and I start wrapping it one, like this, layer after layer after layer, so that it's hanging like this around a book. Then I'll cut the hanging loop, I'll tie a knot around the top, and that leaves you with like an octopus looking deal, which has 200 strands basically, because you wrapped it 100 times. So that's just one easy way to do it. But the reason I put the eggs on the filter floss is because, well, it's twofold really. The eggs of Pseudomagill Aru2, Gertrude Aru2, are one of the longer egg the longest egg gestation or incubation periods in the Pseudomagill and rainbow world, in that it takes 14 days usually, which I know doesn't sound like long when you think about what a human goes through, but it takes 14 days for the eggs to mature, 10 to 15, but usually about 14 is right, 13 or 14. And basically, when they mature, they're still really teeny. It's kind of an odd thing, but they lay eggs every day, and they hope that laying eggs every day, well, in the long run, then having 3 or 4 staggered for 2 weeks, they'll keep just as they swim downriver or around the lake or wherever they're at. Then they just assume that it will spread out the chances of survival. So every fish has a strategy to survive and how they're going to lay their eggs. And some lay 2,000 at once, and others, oh, got another egg. Others lay it, one that they protect very carefully or whatnot. So there's all different strategies, but the Aru2s are kind of an oddball in that way, in that it takes so long for them to incubate, yet they're still super teeny. They're some of the teeniest fry you'll see. They're smaller than an eyelash for sure. I'm gonna put this back in. So I got, in one night from one female, it looks like I got 4 or 5 eggs. Probably 3 or 4 are fertilized. And that's real on the low end. Like, as she gets comfortable, I've gotten up to 30 eggs a day from a really fat female, and they'll do that for like 2 weeks, and then they'll kind of lay off. Yeah. But oh yeah, why don't I do that? Oh yes, definitely. Ultimate Despair. Also make sure that the book is sturdy, as wrapping wool around it make a flimsy one can bend a bit. Yeah, you can break a book if you're wrapping it hard. I usually like to take my hand, put it in between the book and that, so that there's room afterwards. And then I've got something in there. Or you could take something like a marker, a Sharpie or something, and just slide that in and then wrap around that. And then that way, when you need to pass thread through to tie it off, you're good to go. So yeah. Also wanted to explain this. This is my method as far as I know. I haven't learned this from anyone or anything, and so maybe other people do this, but basically why I started doing this, putting eggs in filter floss, is because 14 days is a long time for eggs to have to survive without molding, okay? In the fish world. Like Danios hatch 24 hours, tetras 24 to 48 hours, like neon tetras 72 hours, like or there's some that hatch in 12 hours. But regardless, you wrap up the eggs in this enough so that you can watch them, and they'll turn gray as they get older, and if a fish is developing in them, and by around day 7 or 8, they'll be gray, and the egg will get even bigger, and you can see the fish in there. You can see it turning and like adjusting itself and swirling around. It's kind of cool if you've got good eyesight. Otherwise, you might need a camera or something to zoom in and take a picture. But there's a lot of opportunity for mold in there, and you need to keep these eggs oxygenated, and you need to keep them away from the protein that forms at the top of tanks. So to do that, you want to be running an oxygen pump all the time, breaking up the protein skims, or the protein skin or film on the top of the tank. And by using these little nests, I can place them in order of days, and I can line the tank. But I don't want them in the tank with these adults, because they're notorious for eating their babies. They love the taste of their own baby. And so what I do is I put them down here in the shrimp tank. And so I place them over by the heater and the aerator. And then even if snails come, because snails frequently will try to eat eggs out of a mop or off of plants and whatnot, and this really prevents the snails from being able to get at them, in my experience. You may lose a couple, but you're not going to lose them all. So the other thing I wanted to show you, and since it's going to be on this laptop and not on my phone, can you guys see the baby fish in here at all? Like, if you just wait a sec, there should be, like, I can see them with my bare eyes above the maple leaf. there are dozens of little fish, and these little fish are the danios and the samfong rasboras that I had. And so they're in here with my blue dream shrimp from Lucas Brett's, and I just am gonna have them hang out together because there's lots of little teeny seed shrimp and stuff for them to eat as hatchlings, like better than infusoria. It's like a whole perfect little world in there for them of dozens of crustaceans, cyclops, all sorts of stuff for them to eat. And can you guys see the babies up here? Anywhere up in here? I don't know if this camera is working, but in any case, yeah. So then they can grow up in here for a month or so, and uh, once they get bigger, then I'll move them out of this tank, and they'll go into Thunderdome, which is the tank up here. And up here, why is the light not adjusting? This is like a super bright tank, and okay. Well, we'll go back to the newscaster thing. I guess, so if you guys know my streams, you know that I tend to do streams where I walk around and show you guys stuff all the time and make people like Betsy want to throw up. But basically, hold on, let me answer a question. But basically, when I'm moving around like that, it is really hard to look at questions and to keep my train of thought as much. And so, a lot of other channels just have someone sitting here like this, just answering questions and talking. And I guess I can give that a go for one episode. But to me, I really like to show you guys my fish and to be able to point things out. And that will be the future. This is just an experiment in trying to get the laptop working. Do you think a stunted fish has a shortened lifespan from Fish Tropic? Stunted fish. You mean like if it's in a tank that's too small? Because basically, if a fish has the food it needs and isn't getting sick, in captivity they live pretty well. I mean, they live a long lifetime, but I'm just wondering what exactly you mean by that. But there are fish that are meant to be really big, like trying to think, like sturgeon, arowanas, gar, stuff like that. If you put that in a small tank, you stunt it, yeah, its organs will actually form small. People say that a fish will grow to fit its tank, and that's not really true. Um, but no, I haven't seen stunted plecos, but I have seen some plecos are just runts, and they're like this big for months and months and months, while the other ones are getting like this big. So I've seen that, but I haven't seen, in my care anyways, plecos that are like smushed or anything because of that. I mean, it would be hard to see from my knowledge. But I have seen people keeping big, like just plain old rubber nose or rubber lip plecos in too small of conditions, and that fish being stressed and exhibiting stress behavior, having a poor immune system and stuff. So that can definitely happen. But I haven't seen it like physically manifest in any real way of like the fish scrunching up or anything like that. But yeah. So now the next thing I was going to kind of show you guys was a little sneak peek at something. And this sneak peek is brought to you by Dr. Pepper, the official drink of my fish room. This bottle's way too big. It's gonna go flat and then taste like gross. I just take a motion sickness pill before. Yeah, sorry guys. I know that everyone gets sick when I move, but getting a gimbal. If you guys have a suggestion on what gimbal to get for a phone, but it'd be nice if it could fit like a DSLR slash normal camera mount. Because I also have a Canon Rebel T3i, and I would like to start filming some of these videos and stuff in that. I know that also made people dizzy. So what I have here are some illustrations. These will be available probably as prints or shirts sometime in the near future. So we have one that is a clockwork style fish with gears, kind of alluding to like a way that maybe like it could help steer its tail, and what's going on with like the power source in the center and all the fins and stuff. And then we've got kind of your typical fish in a Sumi ink brush style. So I'm gonna go through and show you guys some of these. Some of these might end up with Lucas Bretz for his shirts and things, but I want to talk to Viola Hops a lot. So Viola, and if you guys know her in the community, and talk to her about maybe getting together and just doing a series of shirts. And so yeah, maybe having like get a few of the artists in this field together and working on shirts. So here's another one. This was the prototype that started it all. So this was my first idea. This was a wind-up shrimp, and it kind of had like steel armor plating, and this was done on a piece of torn paper, just with a brush and ink real quick. So yeah, so I have to ask you a question, shrimpsandplants.com, Jason. Do you want to see your present now, or do you want to get it later? If you want to see it, I'll show it here. Otherwise, you'll see it later for Christmas. He and I live close to one another and our friends. This was another inspiration piece. I was just drawing when we were at dinner, and this is two Pseudomagil Aru 2 males competing for females. This is too hard to see. I fully realize that, but it was another one. I am not getting money from Dr. Pepper. I am losing money from Dr. Pepper because of dental health and whatever, life, getting fat, so forth. So here is another illustration. This one here is a shrimp. This is a Neocaridina shrimp, and you can see it's kind of got its wild cherry shrimp markings. And here is the steampunk / clockwork version of it. And it's a wind-up shrimp, so I kind of took it from the last one. But this one has like a little more technology in it. It's got some circuits, so it's like 1930s and vacuum tubes and steam stuff. So yeah, there's these, and then they're designed so that they're roughly the same size. This is a pregnant female one. Obviously, they're roughly the same size. I'm trying to use my fish as references for some of these, but they're the same size so that if you wanted to, you could frame one here and one here. So like for your wall, like this painting up here, you could do one there, facing each other in the kitchen or something, or in your fish room. Kitchen. Who am I kidding? All right, let's show Jason his Christmas present, which isn't framed yet, but so he and I have run all over town looking for Chili rasboras, Brigitte rasboras. And so this is a stylized crankshaft animatronic steam-powered version of the chili rasbora that needs to be cut in half and framed. But I hope you get a kick out of that, man. I felt like drawing a little something other than going and buying a present. I just felt like I'd draw a little something. So there's that. Okay, so coming up next, we've got the grumpy Siamese fighting fish. It's wind up. I think the wind ups I can only do so many times. But then we've got the natural betta that looks like it's ready to tear things up. It's grumpy, super ultra Siamese fighter betta. So these two are facing the same way, but for prints, I could always flip them around. But this was the first one I drew. Yeah, in this style. So then the next one, we've got a lion's head ranchu. And I know it looks like his ribs are showing, but no, they just have these striations there. That's their body style. Because speaking of stunted, everything is crammed into the body, but it has to be the same size organ-wise. So everything fits in there, and it has to be a little more condensed. This now, you can see, like, I designed different gears and things and systems for like all the tails here. They're connected via different, like, some of them have hydraulics, some of them have different I don't know, levers and pistons and things. Some of them have different gear ratios, center axles, and steam pumps and stuff like that. This is kind of my traditional style, which is just like Sumi ink, and I started doing that years ago. But let's see here. So then I'm working on another one right now. My dad's a big fisherman, and here in Seattle, we are able to fish for 5 types of salmon. So I'm working on right now, haven't quite finished this one, working on a sockeye salmon in its breeding humpy stage, as we like to call these fish. So that's when they're all red and green and kind of like looking, and they don't look like normal fish. But I thought I'd show you guys. Yes, I'm sorry, Oranda. Yeah, with the lion's head thingy. But yes, so that's just some of what I've worked on. Another early sketch was this one. I was gonna do all these swirls and stuff behind it too. That was a CPD, but in any case, I think I'm going to do some more wild fish around here, and then I'm also going to do just fish that I like, that I keep, that are in the hobby also. Fake name, I haven't thought about that. Like what they'd go for yet, or what size I'll make them. I guess they could be 8.5 by 11, and you could get certificate frames. Oh, Ginger Graves, thank you so much. I appreciate the super chat. When I see people like that interested in it, then I'm like, oh, okay, I will do this. Part of it is I've talked to Lucas about doing prints through his shop, since people come to him and buy his stuff, and I do the art for his shirts and things now. So I was thinking about doing, like, putting my art and maybe Viola's or something, like a couple of us having just like fish related art, shirts, hats, stickers, that kind of stuff around. Yeah. And I could do Teespring, but the thing with Teespring is you come away with like $1 or $2, which, not that like I'm doing this to get rich, but it would be nice to, like, I don't know, make a little bit of something more than that. But Yeah, I could start a store too, or maybe on getgills.com. I don't know if that counts, but as like dry goods, maybe I could put that there. I'd have to talk to Dan from Dan's fish keeping or Dan's aquatics to figure that one out. But thank you so much. Yeah, how much for a copy? I mean, I like to do my copies on really good quality paper, and then I'll number them, sign them, and because I've had an art gallery, as some of you probably know, and www.somainkdesigns.com or www.somainc.com. Also, it are two websites of mine that have my art stuff. So that's what I did for a living for years, was art stuff. But yeah, usually I have I have two coloring books for adults in there. One's of mushrooms, different Pacific Northwest mushrooms from deadly to psychedelic to delicious and edible. And then I also have, you know, I have these smaller size prints. I thought that some were going to be handy because I've got a bunch of art stacked right there. But I'll probably do $5 for postcard size, and then I'll do for 8.5 by 11 or certificate size, or 8 by 10. 8 by 10 is an easier size to frame, but I think it'll probably be like 2 for 25 on nice paper, signed and numbered, limited, or I could do it even cheaper and do like 10 a pop or something like that. That's probably what I would do, because I like to put a little bit of value to it, but not put it out of reach of people, if that makes sense. And also, if people do it as a way to say like, I enjoy your channel, thank you, for our mint for, oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that super chat. You're waiting for you Aru2. I need to do Aru2 drawing, and I'll be breeding the Aru2s. I'll put those on getgills.com when I have them. The other thing is Aru2, since they have a gestation period of 14 days or whatever, or the egg incubation period, and basically I can ship them in a small little vial. Let me show you what this is. What Gary Lang, the Rainbow Fish King, sends his in. He puts them in these little vials, and he puts like takes a toothpick and gets blue what is it, methyloc. Why am I'm spacing on the chemical? Methylene blue, and he'll put a dot of that on a toothpick, put that in the water in here, and then he'll put like 25 eggs in each vial, and he'll ship them off with a little heat pack and wrap them up in like an envelope. And it, yeah, methylene blue. So yeah, yeah, that's the fish that your wife is dreaming of. I know, Jason. I know. Also up here, I always wanted to point out that the other fish you could use other than an Aru2. Oh, look at that. The Aru2s came right to the glass. He's saying hello to you all. Look at that. What a guy. Is the hatchet Daniel, which is at the very top there on the top left. They don't have the cool fins at all or anything, but they do have kind of an interesting body, and they do fight over females kind of interestingly. So, but yeah, I really like the Aru2s. They're not overwhelmingly flashy, but they're just subtly, gracefully beautiful. I'll keep you guys. Oh, gotcha. I didn't know that. That's the wife. Okay. Yulia, what's going on? Hi, I'm putting things together now. You can come over and get eggs tomorrow if you want, Yulia. But I'm trying to hatch you some babies, like first and foremost, and then they're slow growers. They take a month or two to get to a size where they even resemble anything other than a tadpole, and then from there they start growing. So while I'm talking about, I hope you draw a guppy and a pea. Oh yeah, I'd love to do a pea puffer. Definitely going to do endlers and guppies. And I might do it. Like I was also even thinking about doing eventually, like a playing card deck or something, like 52 of them, and doing like 26 different fish with different styles or something. I don't know. I'll have to think that through. But I'd like to have. Let me put it this way: I'll probably have, just because this is how I believe that we should be, kindness wise, sharing wise. I will have a free version that people can print out. I will, of at least some of them. I will have a free version that you guys can go to Kinko's or whatever and print out. But then I'll have another version that's like $10 a print or something along those lines, that will be signed, numbered, and a limited edition. Not to toot my own horn, but I have been in art galleries in LA, Vancouver, BC, Cairo, NYC, all over Washington State and Seattle. So I mean, and I've been in a museum. I'm still in a museum exhibition in NYC in LA at the Skirball Museum, also Vegas. So not that I'm a famous artist, but I have done quite a few series of art. It's usually animals or organic in nature, and so to people who collect it or whatnot, I like to give it a little bit of value, to treat some of it a little more respectful, in the sense of like make you pay so that it's more valuable to you, if that makes any sense, so that you stare there and look at it a little bit longer if you pay a little more for it. It's just like fish, just like a lot of fish, shops get them for cheap, but like blue and yellow or red shrimp, a lot of times now shops are getting them for the same price, honestly, and they'll charge more for the blues just because they're different. And so I like to do that, but the part of me that is the artist and the hippy dippy part of me says I want to give this art all away. I can't put a price on it. And my wife's like, you need to make money. You need to make the money. So yeah, I might put some stuff free online, like for screens and for people to color in. You can color it in digitally or whatnot. But I'll let you guys know what happens with that. Feel free to message me personally or on Facebook. As much as I appreciate everyone in the chat mentioning that they like it and everything, we can work something out. And I'm a sucker. I always work on a sliding scale for you guys, for anybody. If you're in a tight spot and you're trying to get, some stuff for your house and you're in high school or something, yeah, I'll probably just give you the prints. If you're a lawyer and you have the money, you're at a point in your life when you can support an artist a little bit. I mean, in theory, I still have to pay taxes on 30% of that, and the time that it took to draw it, print them, and then to go ship them out and all that. Then I appreciate that too. So, yeah. Yeah, same with glass blowing, Jeff. Yeah. Art in general. Otter Creek Aquatics, what is up? So, the last part of this stream before I disembark or answer any questions, please feel free to ask any questions. Troubleshooting for your fish. because I am not set up to be moving around and showing you the stuff in my tanks, which is a bummer because I have some stuff that I've moved around and I wanted to show you guys some stuff and all that. It's almost over. You've got 15 more minutes at least. So I am working on 2 specific videos right now, and one is on tannins and the 3 types of tannins. The 3 types of tannins that there are in the natural world and their history. So when you hear about tanning a hide or leather, that is from tannins. When you hear tannins in wine and things like same tannins, like it's kind of interesting. And there's a long history with humans talking about tannins. Okay. All right. I got some questions coming in here. Do you know how to sex multifasciatus shell dwellers? Or multis? Never mind. Yeah, kind of. So what I've been told is that the females will be a little bit fatter in the belly, obviously, and something about their stabilizing fins are wider apart. I have only kept those years and years ago as a teenager or a kid, and I have friends with them where I go over and check theirs out. But basically, I've seen the most common way of sexing them is to just observe how long they're hanging out in their shells for, and like if you see one with a big belly and kind of fins flayed out more over time, then you can guess that that's a female who's got eggs in her belly. And then the males should be more guarding a particular shell, not letting others in and out of it, but still going around to try to like solicit the females, where the females can stay in their own cave and hide. So I know that doesn't help that much, but those are the only ways I know offhand that I've been told to sex them. So also, ooh, somebody found a green neocaridina in their sump. That's a good find. Glad to see your subscribers growing, Alex. You deserve it. You've got some interesting content. Well, thank you, buddy. I appreciate that, Otter Creek. I want to also do a few. I mean, there's a bunch of videos I want to do. It would be great if I could get somebody to help me edit some of the stuff. I have a time lapse of me taking care of this aquarium and the one upstairs, and I actually just like recorded music to go with it and everything, and I'm trying to edit it together. So there's some stuff that'll be coming out. Bear with me as I'm learning how to video edit all over again, and I know how to do it with the camcorder, put it in the computer. Camcorder, is that a thing anymore? And then how to manipulate the basic programs, but I'm not well versed in After Effects or popping in graphics that are interactive and that move and stuff. So I need to get better at that. I just hands down, I just need to get better at that. All right, so I saw another question. Oh, what is broad spectrum treatment? I'm assuming if somebody says that they're referring to well, there's 2 things: either light, and that would be for plants growing, and that means that you've got your reds, your blues, and your UVs kind of. So something like a Fluval 3.0 planted tank light would be a broader spectrum, or T5 bulbs set with like if you got fluorescent bulbs that have the UV light and have normal light. But the main thing I would assume is antibiotics, and that means broad spectrum usually means that it can treat a wide array of ailments in your fish. So there may be gram negative and gram positive, and so sometimes broad spectrum antibiotics are a combination where you're treating that. And if someone says a broad spectrum treatment for your fish, that would be, ICX, erythromycin, maybe levamisole for worming and parasites, maybe general cure. So there's a lot that could mean, but basically a broad spectrum antibiotic, there's two kinds. There's gram negative and gram positive, which is the way the bacteria functions. But there's different ways to kill bacteria, and one way is by attacking the proteins that the bacteria uses to replicate. Another one is to basically dry the cell out by sucking the moisture out. Another one is to deny it moisture or any sort of nutrients. And then there's also another type of drug that reacts by basically not allowing it to replicate. So it causes chromosomal errors to the point where it can't replicate. So that would be, and if one antibiotic can attack in multiple versions of those methods of attack to the bacteria in your fish, that would be a broad spectrum. Whereas some only do it a certain way, and that targets like an abscess in the fish's mouth or in the fish's eye or something like that. That's what I would guess they're talking about. All right, let's see here. Protease inhibitors. Are we talking about HIV drugs now? That was one of the first HIV treatments that worked, or protease inhibitors. So that would be more for viral load, I believe, right? Or is that for like gram negative, like secondary infections of pneumonia and things like that? Let's see here. Bob would know better because. Oh, Bob, you're asking. I thought you might know better because of your background, but from the research I've done, I don't know of any that you can get your hands on in the fish world, in the vet world, protease inhibitors, or trying to think of any. No, not that I know of, because that is treating the way a virus replicates by stripping it, and that's for retroviruses that are hardened. So like for fish, hepatitis maybe, or something like that. That might be something that would help. But there's got to be autoimmune diseases that affect fish also. But I just don't know of anything that they've come up with that does that very well. But protease inhibitors are relatively new. 25, 30-year-old class of drugs, and they're pretty interesting how they work in humans for HIV and things like that. It was really what first started saving people. That was one of the first big breakthroughs. But yeah, now we're learning a lot more about how to treat bacteria infections and things. And the main thing is, no matter what you're doing, just finish the course. I know a lot of people think that like, it got better, it's okay, I'll give it a couple more days, I don't need to do 2 weeks of this. Finish the course, because these bacterias are getting stronger and stronger. And like I had with Vibrio in my case, where my plecos were eating snails, it was a really bad situation because the snails had it in them. My puffers got sick, most of them died, and which is I'm really bummed about. But I'd been feeding them the same snails out of the pleco thing, and Vibrio is a shellfish bacteria, but it has become immune to antibiotics, which you'd think like a wild bacteria. How does that happen? Well, it happens because people and fish farms and things like that have had medication where they've treated it and haven't killed it. They've got it close to killing it, and then it comes back, and boom, now you have a bacteria that can do even more damage because yeah, same in humans, but it's happening in fish world because of so much commercial fish infrastructure and farming and all that. So the last thing I was going to talk about, and I have a video that I'll do a whole video on this, was gotta go wrap presents. Well, have fun doing that, and Merry Christmas, buddy, up there in Canada in the frozen Northwoods. But basically, I read this study, and I'm going to be looking more into rapid evolution, because Darwin said that evolution happens over lots and lots of generations, and it's survival of the fittest, and you have to have something killing things to cause that selection. The selection is basically like, if it's alive, it gets to pass on its genes, whereas if it's dead, obviously it doesn't. And that requires something being killed before reproductive age in order for that to work. But why are we seeing changes evolutionarily that are like quicker than that within a lifetime? And a lot of this has to do with epigenetics, EPI genetics, and it's really interesting. This new field, it's a very, very new field, and they don't quite. I'm covering the mic. Sorry, guys. They don't quite understand it yet. But the new field of it is basically genetics that flip on and off, and it's so the way I have described it before is like puberty. So when you go through puberty, you're still you DNA wise, but your body had a signal that at a certain time or certain cues, you're going to have hormone changes and bone growth changes and height and weight and hair and oils and all sorts of stuff. But that's still you. And now there's environmental factors that can speed that up, like hormones, or slow it down. And those cues are in the DNA, and they can get flipped off or on. And they're finding now that like guppies have cues for when there's predators. And when there's predators in their life, their babies won't have bright colors. They'll have patterns that hide them. But when the predators are gone, the guppies then after a generation or two will have really bright colors again. And the females select for that intentionally too. So now they're trying to figure out, how can these changes happen so quickly? Or how can a guppy that supposedly only lived in 80-degree water or whatever, 70-degree water, be surviving in 45, 50-degree water over winters in some places? Things like that. And one answer is that if there's enough variety, you're going to have some individuals that are prone to that in any case. And when you have quick generations, when you have generations quickly breeding of something, then you can figure out very quickly how to adapt to that. You know, if you have 30 babies, they all have a little bit different genetics, and every 30 days a new crop comes out. It's really easy for that fish to evolve in really interesting ways. Now, I'm going to save all the info and the photos and everything, like the detail, for another video. But here in Seattle, Washington, we have sticklebacks. They're little fish, yay big, yay to yay big, like 2 to 4 inches usually. And they have spines on them and armor, just like a little pleco or a little corridora or something. But it turns out that we have this big lake in Seattle called Lake Washington. And in the 1905 to 1915, they were doing mining for silver on the lake and logging and all sorts of stuff. And they turned the water super, super muddy, murky, milky, gross. And they dredged up the lake and they killed off all the lily pads and all the stuff that was keeping the sediment down. And then, boats coming through. And then they opened up the lake to the Puget Sound, which is salt water, through a series of locks. So they also screwed up the salinity of the water and they basically killed the lake, which used to have millions of salmon running through it every year to the Cedar River. All of a sudden, in a matter of 10 years, it went down in like 50%. And within 30 years, it was almost non-existent. So sticklebacks, which you probably have seen if you watched one of my older videos. I was up in Vancouver, BC, showing you guys the sticklebacks mating, which was, I think, really cool to watch. And that they live in that crazy hot spring water. They're such an adaptable fish. They are like those and sunfish or pumpkin seed fish are like cockroaches. They're going to be the last thing left in the world, in the freshwater fish world, along with carp and catfish, if there's ever an apocalypse. Those things just survive. But so back then, the water clarity, when they first started studying, like, how bad is the situation when the mayor says that? 1957. Sir, it's bad. You can only see 23 inches into the water at any given time. Like, the water's flat as glass, calm in the morning, sun shining. That's the clarity. And this lake is big. It's 29 miles long. It's a good size. It's a glacial lake. There's a big island in the center with, I don't know, 200,000 people living on it or something. There's Bellevue on one side and Seattle on the other, Renton at the bottom. And then starting in 57, they got a grant of $100 million to clean up for the next 20 years. I mean, they had been spilling creosote gas. Like, they were treating logs with tar and then floating them through the lake to get to the Puget Sound and stuff. It was just awful. And they do things like, if there was milfoil, they'd just like cyanide the lake or whatever. Like, just I guess nobody cares about anything in the lake. We'll go get our salmon out of somewhere else. Like, there's always more somewhere. It was a very Dr. Seuss last of the Truffalo trees moment. But there are cutthroat trout that survive in the lake, and sturgeon. Those kind of stopped being in the lake. But what you need to worry about for this little story is the cutthroat trout. So cutthroat trout eat lots of little baby fish. And the sticklebacks have the ability, with their little side pectoral fins and their back, to lodge into the mouth of that size of a cutthroat trout and basically hurt them enough that if they didn't chomp them in half on the first bite, they can then wiggle free. So in 1957, clarity, 29 inches, or 23 inches, they start to clean up the lake. By 1969, clarity is up to 5 feet. And it turns out that the sticklebacks start growing sharper spines made out of a harder material and have armor over 80% of their body. And they're like, wow, okay, this is kind of weird. The sticklebacks all look like a different species of fish almost. You see them before, they're like translucent to yellow, and then they're like black, like rhino-looking armored fish. And time keeps passing on. Well, by 1992, the clarity is back to where it should be at 25 feet of visibility in the lake, which is great. It's a success story of cleaning up a lake that was just totally ruined and a lot of people thought it would never come back. I mean, there'd been oil spills in the lake and all sorts of stuff. Even the salmon runs are starting to come back. So the stickleback came in from the salmon ladder that was there since 1917, and they made themselves at home. And because of old genetics, probably from pre-Ice Age era, they were an armored fish out in the open water. They're I can't remember the name of that, when a fish can go like a salmon, but when they can go out in the salt water and then back to fresh, whatever. I'll remember the term as soon as I get off the stream, I'm sure. So now, though, only 6% of the sticklebacks are not either somewhat or totally armor plated now that the visibility is that high. So it's pretty crazy that fast, 50 years, they totally changed the way this fish looked. So, yeah, I don't know. Thought that was interesting. And they're looking at the genetics of that and the fact that mutations forward are great. And that's what Darwin thought was usually the case. So what I want to talk about in the video, and what I'm researching more about guppies and all sorts of stuff, is that it's not necessarily the mutations forward that are always the best. It's remembering your DNA from the past. So if this fish was armored at one point and had spikes at one point, like a million years ago, and then it evolved not to, and then it evolved to be in the salt water and then the fresh water, all those traits are hidden in the DNA. They're all hidden in that code, and they can be flipped back on by epigenetics. And sticklebacks, well, okay, so there's 4, someone's asking, DPK fish aquariums, don't sticklebacks require higher oxygen levels in water? They like it. And then also there are 4 main kinds that we have here in Washington, and it's the 3-spine stickleback that I'm talking about, which apparently can live in mud. But yeah, some require a lot of dissolved oxygen. Andromedus, thank you. All right, sorry guys, I'm just reading the last few comments. Yeah, most people are lost when it comes to fish meds, and a lot of people over-medicate fish meds, and then they cause the problem to be worse. Or they over-medicate in the, they're like, I need to medicate this, and this, and being smarter it always pays to do a little more research and just try to treat the problem at hand and not just treat everything that's out there, unless you're putting them through quarantine or something, and then I understand that. But there's certain parasites and things that your fish can live with in the wild. Like, they came in with it, they were living with it. Yeah, it shortens their life, but in theory, that won't kill it. Something else will, more than likely. But yeah. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm getting tired. Plus, I'm allergic to something again, as always. My eyes are all swollen, and when I close my eyelid, it sticks shut for a sec. It's probably not good, right? Art happening. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. Thank you so much for the super chats from my buddies. I'm just reading a few last questions. Okay. All right, guys, I gotta go. I really appreciate you guys viewing. I know tonight was a hodgepodge and I didn't have my camera, but if you guys in the comments also want to leave, if you have a gimbal that you know of offhand that works well, drop that in the comments. Also, the other thing, a few of you have said, I love your channel. How can I help? How can I, you deserve more followers or whatever. First of all, thank you very kindly. I appreciate that. I'm trying for you guys. I try to do some just normal updates and things, but then I'm trying to do digging and doing more research into you know, what's coming out, what new species are out in the hobby, in the world in general, and political issues affecting them, and all these things that I hope can make this community and channel special. The last thing we'll talk about before I get off here is that the other night I was messaged by somebody in Germany, and he said, I saw your video where you said not to mix two different strains where you don't know the origin of like cherry shrimp. Because one might be Bloody Mary and one might be Sakura, painted fire. And that means that one came from the Shoko or chocolate wild type Davidii, and the other one could have come from the Davidii rusty color wild one. And when they make babies, they're different genes and they can revert back. Well, he said we're having this big problem in Germany now where we're actually having shrimp not with Illobiopsidae, none of that. I mean, yes, that is a problem also, but different shrimp strains have different gut flora and fauna and bacteria that lives on them and in them. When they molt and stuff, they're really susceptible to that, to whatever bacteria is in the water, and they're having problems with different hobbyists in different countries. And you know, you get a shrimp from India and then a shrimp from China and then a shrimp from the USA that's been removed but was originally from China, and they have all these different bacterias, gut bacterias and external bacterias, and they're having huge die-offs in the hobby, are being reported, and it's called like incompatible bacteria is like the translation of it. But that's another something I wanted to look into, and something I just thought I'd bring up while we're here on the live stream. So thank you so much to my moderators, basically just Bob tonight. Thanks, Bob. And I hope everybody enjoyed the stream. For those of you who asked how to grow the channel and things like that, if you go back and leave comments on videos, that engagement rate always really helps. And then also, if you find a video that's applicable to a question somebody has, and you find it to be a useful help video, that's also a huge help. Plus, it introduces the person to the channel. So I hope that I can be a source of helping someone save their fish, save them a headache, help them enjoy the hobby. You know the drill. But that's all I've got for tonight. Thank you for holding tight and bearing with these technical difficulties. I'm hoping to get a gimbal and start using different software and stuff in the new year. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care. Take care of your fish, the people around you, yourselves, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. Oh, that's the last thing. I saw it. Guava leaves, banana leaves help shrimp fight those bacteria. Yes, any tannins will do that. Plus, there's other things on those leaves. But in my tannin video, I will be discussing that. All right. Bye, guys.